Hey everyone, welcome back to Inside Gaming for Thursday. It's Breaking News Thursday. We save every breaking news until Thursday so we can unveil it for you right now.
Sony has finally given in on crossplay. Finally, some good news to report.
Yeah, which means this episode is not going to do very well. Yeah, the new feature is available for developers to use right now, which is good news for upcoming games like Modern Warfare.
Yeah, they announced last year that they were going to be enabling a beta feature for games like Fortnite, but now it's available for all games.
Yeah, weirdly though, Sony hasn't really publicized the new feature, like at all. It came out in an interview that Sony Interactive Entertainment CEO Jim Ryan gave to Wired, which was mostly about cloud gaming, and crossplay was brought up by Ryan almost like an afterthought.
I'm so curious. Ryan, what do they have to say about that?
Yeah, so the article said that while Sony, quote, isn't announcing the news specifically, crossplay on the PS4 has, quote, moved out of the beta stage, meaning that the console can support crossplay on any titles that studios provide the functionality for. It's big news. I would think you would want to announce that specifically.
They're actually probably waiting for a good marketing beat to announce that. Or maybe they're saving it for Modern Warfare as like a co-announcement. Or maybe they're just bashful it took that long, because people have been asking for this for a long time.
Sony's bashful.
Yeah. Ooh, you're a little coy boy.
Then again, Sony seems like a very show not tell kind of company, at least lately. Definitely been an odyssey to get here. While Microsoft and Nintendo have been cooler about this whole crossplay thing, this generation Sony has kind of seemed to be content sitting on its own giant pile of PS4 cash and giving a thumbs down to pretty much everything.
Crossplay, no. Dads and lesbians, yeah.
But this console generation is almost over, and new competitors like Google are looming, and it's prompting Sony to soften up a bit.
It's scary. Google casts a very big shadow because they have vaults of cash and data centers all over the planet. But as far as the interview goes, Ryan did give their motivation for doing it, them being Sony.
Yeah, he said the track record of the incumbent platform winning the next time around is not a great one. So the major thrust of my executive energy is to avoid complacency. Put that on his headstone.
Yeah, well, we'll see. I mean, that's a really candid comment. I think we all like to think that people in the industry don't notice the things that we do outside of it, which is dumb as hell because they stare at it all day. Whereas we have to work stupid jobs where we gotta like take out the trash, eat our vegetables, and clean our room stupid. Anyway, yeah, he's right. Sony has a track record in the past of getting complacent after winning a generation or two, and then just assuming everyone will snap up what comes next. So what's the history there, Brian?
The PS2 was one of the best-selling consoles of all time, and before that, the PS1. So Sony kind of won those two generations, and while the PS3, it wasn't a disappointment, it definitely wasn't the sales beast that its predecessors were. So it was a little bit of a drop-off, and it seems like that's kind of what Sony is trying to learn from this time around.
Yeah, $599 US, baby. You gotta afford that cell processor. It's a mega computer.
Have you seen a dad rendered by eight CPU cores?
So many.
What do you mean nobody's buying it?
I'm a dad, I just need 2 cores. It's fine, that's plenty of cores.
PlayStation 4 crossed the 100 million units sold threshold earlier this year, putting it up there with the all-time greats, and it's not done yet. We still got about a year.
That's a killer lineup of exclusives that really nobody has been able to match, and with Sony back on top, they also got stubborn about a feature that everybody wanted.
You mean flash card slots right on the front of the console? With chrome trim? And Spider-Man fonts? Ah, okay, that's enough digging at the PS3. We love you, fat, stupid little bastard.
How about a portable with a proprietary memory card? Everybody will love that.
People for years now have been asking for crossplay, especially in big multi-platform games like Fortnite.
While Xbox and Nintendo users were playing together in games like Minecraft, Sony basically crossed its arms and said, No,
not
it's
for you.
It's better on ours, we're not letting them in. Well, he's back.
Specifically with Fortnite, they were really stamping it down when they said that if you had an account set up with any other of the other platforms, you couldn't do crossplay through PlayStation. Even in a case like Fortnite, where they were actively encouraging crossplay, Sony had to just get in there and put the big old police tape up.
Yeah, Epic tried their best to make account progress universal across platforms, even if crossplay wasn't. And boy, yeah, Sony just tripped over themselves trying to say no to it.
What happens when you don't have Cliffy B anymore?
Yeah.
The pit bull in there to fight for your team.
Xbox and Nintendo even teamed up to do a crossplay video for Minecraft, and it was kind of perceived as a bit of a dig at Sony.
Despite getting owned online.
Sold so many
owned! Sony didn't seem to be in any hurry to allow crossplay, except for PC in some cases like Street Fighter V and the MMO Final Fantasy XIV.
So it all kind of came to a head last year over Fortnite. It was riding high as the biggest game in the world, and players were demanding that they be able to play with friends on other systems and also transfer their accounts to other devices.
For a while, Sony dug in its heels and offered a bunch of reasons why they just wouldn't do it.
What are those reasons, Brian?
Sony CEO Kenichiro Yoshida, was asked about it last year at a technology show in Berlin. He said they wouldn't do it because the PlayStation 4 provided the best experience. So he was basically like, sorry, your friend's got a sucky console, but you still can't play with them.
Rolling that dice is tough. You ended up with an Xbox, loser. Sony has also said that they blocked crossplay to protect children.
Aww, that's nice.
Doesn't make sense, but yeah.
Do it for the kids.
Yeah, one executive brought up Minecraft and said, we've got to be mindful of our responsibility to our install base. Minecraft, the demographic playing that, you know as well as I do, it's all ages, but it's also very young, exposing what in many cases are children to external influences we have no ability to manage or look after. It's something we have to think about very carefully. Okay, so actually kind of a point there. So if an Xbox user is coming into the PlayStation ecosystem, doing things that might be okay by Xbox terms of services, but not okay by PlayStation terms of services, PlayStation has no influence over their account or banning them or anything like that, yeah, that's a problem. But who was that executive?
Jim Ryan.
Hey.
I was staring at Jim Ryan, I was like,
I guess a lot can change in 2 years. At the time, his comments prompted a response from Xbox boss Phil Spencer, who said that the implication that Microsoft wasn't keeping Minecraft players safe, quote, doesn't seem healthy for anyone.
also true to a degree. Also, why can't we just call him the X-Boss? Because boss is not really a title. I think he's head of Xbox, it doesn't matter. Anyway.
Put that on his headstone.
Developers were annoyed too by Sony's reluctance to get on the crossplay train, obviously because that's just a nice little feature for the games you're making.
Bethesda's Pete Hines, you remember him fondly.
Yeah.
Is that his name, Pete Hines? What's his name? Davidson. Who's Pete Hines? Oh,
I was like, the guy from Bethesda's f***ing Kate Beckinsale? That's awesome.
He keeps getting specials for some reason.
isn't that Pete Holmes?
Oh,
Who's Pete Hines?
Will Hines is a comedian.
this was important.
Who makes the ketchup?
He said last year that it was absolutely critical that crossplay be allowed in their card game, Elder Scrolls Legends.
Oh, every day in the office, it's like, guys, we're all playing Elder Scrolls Legends on different consoles. When are we gonna be able to play together?
Well.
Oi. Other devs pointed the finger at Sony as being responsible for blocking crossplay in their games.
In 2017, one of the lead directors on Ark Survival Evolved said that they had Xbox One and PS4 crossplay working internally. But he added that currently, Sony won't allow it.
And when Rocket League was released on the Switch a few years ago, Psyonix executive Jeremy Dunham told Polygon that Sony was vetoing crossplay specifically, even though he said that it's, quote, literally something we could do at the push of a button.
Finally, last year, Sony broke down and allowed it for Fortnite.
Are you implying that Fortnite is what finally opened up crossplay on PlayStation? Because that is really disrupting my Fortnite is the cancer-killing gaming narrative that I got going on. In an announcement, former Sony Interactive Entertainment president John Codera acknowledged that fans have been waiting for this a while, saying that, quote, we recognize that PS4 players have been eagerly awaiting an update, and we appreciate the community's continued patience as we have navigated through this issue to find a solution.
He called it a beta and said that they saw it as an opportunity to conduct thorough testing that ensures cross-platform play is best on PlayStation.
Yeah, I guess the beta's over, just like that.
Yeah, looking in from the outside, it's sort of easy to read a particular narrative here.
All right, so starting to get a reputation as an apologist, so buckle in, because here it comes again. The narrative that is emergent is that Sony in their grand hubris felt that they didn't need to enable crossplay since they're the biggest platform. Like, no, you have to come to us. Yeah, this is pure speculation, but I'm gonna throw it out there anyway because I've worked on legacy systems before in my earlier life as an actual software developer. There may be another narrative that explains the long wait for PlayStation crossplay that isn't just complacency and hubris.
Yeah, there's another fairly ubiquitous feature that PlayStation users had to wait an extremely long time for, and that's name changes.
The feature finally hit way back in April of this year with a ton of caveats and strings attached, namely that you might lose save data, DLC, high score placement, and trophy progress.
Those odd technical hiccups imply that Sony designed their network infrastructure assuming that no one's name would ever change. Basically that they made their tech in a vacuum without implementing forward-thinking best practices.
Yeah, there were other services that were even coming up at the time, Xbox Live, Steam, never had an issue with name changing, and we can only assume it's because those services were designed with that forward-thinking functionality in mind. This is an even broader assumption, but it is my perception that a lot of Japanese companies tend to operate that way. They make their own tech for their own specific purpose, and then when it has to play with anything else, it gets really, really sticky.
If we extend that sort of development concept to multiplayer, it makes sense that Sony would run into a ton of technical hiccups when suddenly they need to make their multiplayer technology play nice with other services.
And here's the thing though, that's not really something you can just come out and say. Just like, hey, we can't do crossplay right now because the tech platform we built 10 years ago was never meant to do this. You could say that, but it's not polite. It makes your own teams seem incompetent even though they were doing what they were told the whole time and doing the best job they could. So that's when you start to see weirdly diplomatic stuff about protecting your player base while your engineers are scrambling behind the scenes to slap band-aids all over a system that was never intended to do this in the first place.
Just get like a glimpse into the engine room of the Titanic. There's steam everywhere. They're like,
everything's fine, we're just trying to protect our passengers from ice.
I was picturing the bounty hunter from Arrested Development just And if some element of that is true, namely that Sony had to solve a lot of technical issues behind the scenes for actually enabling crossplay, it just makes the fact that they did it at all extremely impressive.
Yeah, and here's the apologist part of it. Developing features like this costs money. Unless Sony has engineers that work for free, but that's illegal. We can't really do that anymore. If you look at it under that lens, Sony's out here with the best console and the biggest player base, but they still chose to spend their internal resources developing features and let it play with other lesser services, which makes no sense at all from a business perspective, but they're doing it for the PR win, I guess.
Good guy, Sony. Maybe their next AAA game will be about a network engineer that has to recode a network system. The network engineer is also a dad.
Ah, 10 out of 10. Yes. Ah, I love it.
He's a network engineer. He'll also yell at you for leaving the front door open and letting all the air conditioning out.
I can't wait until he shows up in the next one for 5 seconds and I'm like, he's back.
People are asking how he got so many gray hairs between that last game and now, and it's because he spent that entire time just trying to set up the compound's network.
The Wi-Fi's broken. Oh.
Joel spent the last 10 years reminding the zombies to get their oil changed.
So Brian, what's the current state of crossplay?
There was a squeaky door handle. Joel couldn't find WD-40 in the apocalypse.
So currently, there are about a half dozen games that support crossplay between PS4 and PC. They include DC Universe Online, Disc Jam, Eve Valkyrie, Final Fantasy XIV, Street Fighter V, most importantly, Ultimate Chicken Horse.
There are a handful of other crossplay games between the PS4 and PC, as well as the Xbox One and Switch. That's right. This list includes games like Fortnite, Dauntless, Smite, Rocket League, and Paladins.
Activision has also said that crossplay will be enabled across PS4, Xbox One, and PC for the upcoming Modern Warfare. It's
happening. I can't wait. So it's also not hard to imagine a bunch of other multiplayer games immediately jumping on board with this feature because it's a pretty great feature to have. Shame that Borderlands 3 couldn't quite get there.
So while Sony was definitely stubborn about crossplay this generation, they also deserve some amount of credit for finally giving in.
Yeah, because they definitely didn't have to. That's the important thing. In the Wired interview, Ryan also said that they've learned from their past mistakes. He was talking about PS Now, but that could definitely be applied to crossplay as well. I do think this is very good forward thinking for Sony because we still have at least one generation of having a solid box on your countertop. But after that, if we're moving to cloud-based and just like app-based, subscription-based futures, it is going to be very hard to understand why you can't play a game with somebody else just because you're logging in through the PlayStation app and they're logging in through the Stadia app or whatever. In the grim dark future, these differences between platforms will start to fade away. It'll just be branding. Crossplay will be on everything. No more explicit hardware that you got to pick up out of a box and put on your entertainment center. It'll just be about which platforms can secure the best exclusives, which, wouldn't you know it, is exactly how video services work right now.
Apart from that, the general value trade-off, which is why you have companies tripping over themselves to throw free games at you.
Yeah, trying to get you in the ecosystem early. It's like early iTunes Apple. You just get everyone into your ecosystem and lock it down. They'll just keep paying you money forever.
Where else are you gonna play Metro 2033 for free? $99?
It seems like most services want your game library locked to their service, but interoperability to be open, which theoretically is the best possible future we could ask for. You get free games all over the place and everything plays with each other just fine. It's really hard to find a downside.
My generation's gonna be the old geezers. The children are gonna be like, you're just so obsessed with your boxes. And I'll be like, yeah, you kids and your streaming branded apps. Back in my day, I designed the entire aesthetic of my living room around what box was sitting under my TV. I got the Spider-Man PlayStation, so I made the whole room cherry red.
I remember when I was in college, I thought I would do something Art Nouveau, and I nailed up all the wires on the wall to make them look like vines. It looked awful, I think. That's also the same apartment that I drank so much soda that I made a fort out of the boxes and then jumped off the stairs into them, and that man wouldn't get laid for another 8 years.
Oh.
Expands, the PlayStation 4 is outselling all. Tell us more, Alex.
I would love to. I'd love to. Sorry, we're all broken. I'd love to. Industry analyst Daniel Ahmad noted that it took the PS2 5 years and 9 months to hit 100 million sold. PlayStation 4 did it 2 months sooner. 5 years and 7 months. So that's exciting. So that puts the PlayStation 4 right now as the top selling